Hey, I'm back. I don't know if you even noticed that I haven't uploaded a video, and it's because, I'm gonna be honest here, I didn't feel like making any. I also hadn't finished any games or watched any new movies or anything like that around that time, but here I am. I'm back, and just about the same quality as before. Maybe a bit lower because I'm trying a different setup here. I don't think that just posting gameplay of something while I talk about a TV show fits. Anyway, without delaying any more, I'm Ethan, and today I'm reviewing HBO's The Sopranos. So, created by David Chase in 1999, this crime drama follows the leader of the Sopranos family, Tony Soprano. He's stubborn, angry, and in general a horrible person, and you watch as he deals with mafia issues, personal relations with people, his interaction with his family, and most importantly, his therapist sessions with Dr. Melfi. A key focus of the show is Tony's mental state, and the scenes where he is in therapy serve as a great exposition to how Tony really feels about what events have been going on in the episode. The first scene of the entire show, actually, is him going into therapy for the first time and talking about his panic attacks. Now, these panic attacks are mentioned throughout the show several times, and they often discuss the psychology behind what's triggering them. The therapy scenes are done really well. The writers put a lot of effort into the back and forth dialogue between Tony and Dr. Melfi, and the actors, James Gandolfini and Lorraine Bracco, they clearly have a good connection when interacting on the screen. The therapy sessions are very believable. I think it's a really unique storytelling techniques, and they're just really interesting to watch. So you kind of think about why certain things are going that way. Tony's reaction to being told different things is always amusing. He'll usually get pissed off and throw a table or something like that. But enough about Tony and his issues. There's a lot more compelling characters and side stories that the show covers. Let's see, first there's Christopher Moltisanti, played by Michael Imperioli. He's Tony's nephew. He follows a story path of starting out small, trying to work his way up the ranks of the mafia. He's got his own set of developments and story arcs, one of which, for example, he's trying to create a movie about the mafia life, but a character in the film has a very negative likeness to Tony. But that's really later on, so I don't want to get too further into that and accidentally spoil something. Let's see, there's Sil. There's Sil, played by Steven Van Zandt. He's the underboss of the family and one of the few people Tony always trusts. He also runs the strip club they meet at almost every episode, which I should mention. This is an HBO show. There's a lot of gratuitous nudity, and depending on who you are, that's a positive or a negative. Who you watch it with, that depends on as well. So take that as you will. But anyway, Sil's a chill character. He doesn't really have many side stories, though. He's just there, which isn't a bad thing. You don't need to see every character's intricate personal life and issues. Otherwise, the show's episodes would have to be like 2 or 3 hours long. And believe me, that single hour the show takes does feel like an eternity sometimes. I'll get to that later. The final character I really want to mention is Paulie Walnuts, played by Tony Sirico? Sirico? It's Italian. He was actually a real mafia member when he was young, so he made damn sure that his portrayal of the tough guy enforcer was accurate. I remember reading something when the directors, the casting people approached him. He said something along the lines of like, "Sure, I'll do anything, just don't make Paulie a rat." And I'll tell you, you'll have to watch and see if that's true or not. Paulie is a sort of counterbalance to Sil. While Sil would sit in the strip club dealing with the business side, Paulie is out aggressively collecting the payments. Sil is consistently loyal to Tony, while Paulie tends to do things in a way that really pisses him off. It's a really interesting dichotomy, especially when they interact with each other, or all three of them, Tony, Paulie, and Sil, are in a room. A lot of good moments happen that way. Those are just the main four to me. There are other memorable characters with different degrees of importance. There's Big Pussy, one of Tony's best friends. Steve Buscemi comes in at a later season as Tony's cousin. Speaking of which, Steve Buscemi is actually one of the major writers. Just a fun thing. Kind of funny. Because Steve Buscemi's kind of a funny guy, Just interesting to see him writing like a very serious episode. Anyway, Tony's son AJ, he starts out as like an annoying little kid in the first few seasons, but he comes around as an interesting and really compelling character in the 6th season. Junior Soprano, Tony's uncle, plays a major role in quite a few episodes, and most of them have good character arcs and stories. For example, there's one really big thing about Big Pussy that, of course, I won't go into, but it affects the entire show for several seasons, and the way it's resolved is, I think, one of the best scenes in the entire series. So, I've established the characters and the dialogue, they're all written well, but I want to bring up my biggest complaint with the whole show, and that's the pacing towards the middle. You see, season 1 is interesting because of the exposition, and there's a cool plot with Tony's mother. They get into that a lot, psychology-wise. Season 2 deals with a lot of good stuff on the crime side of things. It introduces new characters like Janice Sopranos, his sister. What else? Just a lot of good stuff like that. Season 3 starts off strong, dealing with some things that happen in Season 2, and introduces Ralph Cifaretto, played by Joe Pantoliano. He has some good episodes and scenes, but I think once you get to late Season 3, and for most of Season 4, the show becomes a bit stale and feels like filler, really. Once you get that far in, you can kind of predict the entire episode. One of Tony's subordinates has an issue, either with the rival crew or someone else in the Soprano family. Tony bitches about it to his therapist. Tony cheats on his wife for the nth time, and then yells at his kids. Carmela Soprano, his wife, has some uninteresting side plot about figuring out their financial situation. It all just blurs together. Looking back at the episode synopses, I really only remember 1 or 2 episodes well. That's the finale of that season and the one with Tony having a horse. The end of that season does lead well into Season 5, where things pick back up, but for me, it took me a long time to get through Season 4, and I was a bit hesitant to start on Season 5 because of it. But it did pick up. My second complaint is that some of the B and C plots are definitely filler. There's nothing wrong with filler, but when it isn't great, which is actually most of Season 4, the episode just goes on forever, and you really get bored of it. My last complaint is that despite the amount of good story arcs and a high quality of writing, there is, with a few exceptions, absolutely no character development for anyone in this entire show. Tony starts out as an aggressive sociopath that yells at everyone and cheats on his wife, and ends as an aggressive sociopath that yells at everyone, but doesn't cheat on his wife. That's about the only difference between Season 1 and Season 6 Tony Soprano, and even still, he really wants to do it in Season 6. In Season 3 or 4, Christopher has a certain problem. It supposedly was fixed, but in Seasons 5 and 6, he ends up having that same problem. And I don't necessarily think it's detrimental to the show, per se. Maybe David Chase just wanted to create something that would entertain, and that it did. But if you look at the characters in Season 1 and compare them to their Season 6 selves, they'll be just about the same. Hardly any growth. And that's really all I have to say about The Sopranos. It's a good show with clever storytelling techniques and excellent writing, especially in terms of dialogue. Although they don't have much overall development, just about every character is entertaining to watch in some way. I'd say the one exception is Carmela Soprano. She's just annoying throughout the entire show. And even though she's supposed to be the morally righteous person to combat Tony's criminal life, I still kind of hate her. If you've ever seen Breaking Bad, she reminds me of Skylar White. Anyway, it's got a lot of good, compelling stories, with the exception of the episodes near the middle of the show. I think The Sopranos, to me, is like a 7.5 to an 8. It's definitely worth a watch, and it has some crazy good moments with a lot of highs, but the low moments are a slog to get through. Oh, I didn't even cover the ending. It's crazy. It's easily one of the most